Hey guys, this is Jay and I'm in my front yard, and today's video is to show you how to set up the drone and then take it through the test flight sequence so that we can make sure that the drone is ready for safe and successful flight. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through actually set up. You can see that right now it's in closed up situation, and then we're going to talk you through the test flight. Okay, so let's get it set up. So when it comes out of the box, you're going to see that it's all folded up like this. The antennas are folded up, and we've got this gimbal cover on here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take that gimbal cover off and just literally just push this little thing in and it slides right off. Then we're going to take the drone arms and we're going to fold them out like this. And then the only other thing you need to do is spread out the propellers like so, and the drone is ready to go. Okay, let's put that aside for a sec. The other thing you need to do is to set up the remote. Now, it's got these little extension thingies that you take out like that. The joysticks are right here, and you take those off and screw them in. Screw in that one. And then you have to attach your phone. Now, my Android, when I have a cover on it, doesn't do very well in fitting into this, so I have to take the cover off of it. And then it's important for you to recognize that there's a little USB connection here that connects into here, and you need to have the right one for your phone. So mine is USB-C, so I've got the little USB-C connector, and I connect it into my phone. Then it slots into this little part here, and I just kind of shove it in. There's nothing really, I think there's a better way of doing that, but you shove it in there, and then you make sure that these are gripped down tightly on it, these here, and you're ready to go. The other thing you need to do is to make sure the antennas are extended properly. They just slide out like that, and they say that you want these to be like relatively kind of perpendicular to the flight when the drone's out there. It's not going to make that much difference since you guys are keeping the drone in close to you, but it's important to understand that stuff. Okay, so that's how you get the drone set up. Notice the batteries in there, all of that kind of thing. So we're going to take you to the test flight sequence, and I'm going to take you through two parts. Now, the important thing about the test flight sequence is, one, it's testing the drone to make sure it's all set up and functioning properly. But you're also, if possible, try to test the drone out in the flight area to make sure that the drone's going to operate well throughout the entire flight area. And we'll talk about how to do that. And as you know, there's stuff on the drone that you can see, and then there's stuff that you can't, like all the internal workings. So part of the test flight sequence is for us to go through those internal workings before we do anything else to make sure that the drone is all set up and proper. Okay. And the test flight sequence is in 4 phases. The first one is called PrePowerUp, and these are things you check before you even turn it on. Then you go through the next stage, which is PowerUp. Then you go into a safe hover, the hover test, and then test flight. So again, that's PrePowerUp, PowerUp, hover test, and test flight. And the reason for that is, first you check the things that you can check without the drone being on. Then you check the things that you have to check, that you have to turn the drone on to see. Then you actually take the drone up, but you keep it in a safe hover really close to you so you can check functionality of the drone while it's hovering. And then you, in test flight, take it through the flight area to get a better understanding of how that drone's going to operate throughout the flight area. Okay, so let's get started with the PrePowerUp phase. So when you look on your UAS mission plan and record, there's this sheet here that takes you through the different things that you're checking. And so you're going to check all of these things in each of those 4 phases. All right. So the first thing we're going to check is the power sources. And I've got 3 of them out here now. Okay, one of them is connected to the drone. The other 2 are right here. When you want to check these batteries, the first thing you want to do is just to take a look at them and make sure that there's nothing visibly wrong with them. There's not a whole lot that you can really see on the inside of these, but you can see things like the connectors, and you can just look for any signs of damage. Batteries are super expensive, especially, or not expensive, dangerous. They're also expensive. Because lithium-ion batteries are the ones that are known to just catch fire and explode. So obviously we don't want that in our drone mission. So we're going to want to double check these just to make sure they're okay, and you can pretty much get a sense if they're okay. The other thing on these is the way to check their power is you just push it once, and you'll see the little green circle light up. So when I push this battery, if it lights up all the way around, that means it's fully charged. If it's less than fully charged, it'll give you either 3/4 of that circle or 2/4 or 1/4. Okay. And then to put the battery in, there's these two little squeezy things here. So I just put it into the drone, and I slot it in. These things right here, these little electric connectors align with these electrical connectors here. And it just slots in until you hear this little thing click. And now it's securely attached, okay? So we've checked the battery. We made sure that they're in good condition. We made sure they're securely attached and that they're adequately charged. All right, let's look at the structure. All right, so we want to make sure that there's nothing damaged on here. And so we're going to take a look at the whole thing just to look for any signs that we might have of any damage, okay? Electrical connections are plugged in. The aircraft arms are fully extended, so that's good. The slot covers, like these are the slot covers right here. We're going to want to make sure those are all closed and secure. We're going to check the markings. So we've got the marking here and we've got the marking here on this drone. So we're going to want to make sure that those are there because those are federal regulations. And we're going to want to make sure that the propellers are fully extended. So that's all good. Let's take a look at the lift, propulsion, and maneuvering components. This one, obviously, the maneuvering components and the propulsion comes from the propellers. So we're going to want to just double check to make sure nothing's loose on here, and it seems fine. These propellers, they just come off like by pushing them in and rotating them a little bit, and they come right off like that. You'll notice, okay, so there's this one and this one. On these two, the propellers are different than on these two because they have to spin different ways. So on this, you'll notice that there is a white part, and on this one, you'll notice that it's not white. That corresponds to that little white circle here and the lack of that white circle on here. So if there's a white circle on the propeller, it goes to this white circle on here. And you merely just take it and you line it up with the little holes that are there, twist it, and then it's on. So now they're on fast and securely. Same with this one. And that one's on securely. And it's important also to double check the blades themselves, because if for whatever reason they're damaged at all, it throws off the flight. It actually will throw the propeller, the whole drone off into a balance that it's not used to, and it won't fly properly. So just look at them to make sure that they look the way that they came out of the box. There's no dings or nicks or bends or anything on them, and I think we're okay on that. Okay, let's take a look at the camera, gimbal, and data storage, okay? So we're gonna double check to see if the SD card is in there. So I'm gonna open that little slot. So the slot's open right now, and you can see that the SD card is in there. And it's the only one we've been using, so I'm going to assume it's the right one, but you're going to want to double check that. We're going to check the gimbal, and just to make sure there's no reason why it can't move around, and it seems to be doing fine. Don't roughhouse it, but that seems to be okay. Everything's balanced. We're going to make sure the gimbal cover's removed. I've started the drone a few times with the gimbal cover on it, and well, that's not good. It seems to be okay, but it freaks the camera out. It doesn't seem to break it, but just make sure this is off before you start it. And then we're going to double check to make sure the camera lens is clean. It's early this morning. It's cold, so I don't know what the dew point is, but there could easily get frost on the camera, and it looks fine to me. So we're going to be okay on that. All right. Then let's look at the controller equipment and displays. All right, so I have my controller here. I'm gonna double check that there's no damage on it. And when we set it up a minute ago, I didn't notice anything. Everything seems to be secure. The joysticks are securely attached. That's important because if you're flying, I've had it where the joysticks come off while you're flying, and then you can drop them pretty easily, and now you're searching for the joystick while trying to fly the drone. Just don't do that. All right, all the buttons seem to be fine. It's off, so I can mess with it. So the buttons all seem to be fine. This is the adjuster for the gimbal, up and down. That seems to be okay. Here's the photo button and the video button. So I don't see any reason to think that any of these buttons are in bad shape. So we're gonna find out more when we turn it on, of course. Okay, you're gonna wanna make sure that the phone is securely attached. Why? Because if this falls off while you're flying, man, that's gonna cause you some panic. So let's not do that. Okay, and you're also going to want to make sure your phone is set to ignore all the calls and texts and stuff like that. I'm not going to do that today because I've got to cast it to the screen here, but you're going to want to make sure that your phone is off so that you're not getting a call during the middle of the flight. Let's move down to the controller connection to the aircraft. There's nothing really to check yet because we haven't turned it on. Navigation, autopilot, and return to home systems. Nothing to check yet because we haven't turned it on, but you do want to make sure that the cameras are clean. So here's the camera in the back, here's the cameras on the bottom, here's the cameras on the front, and then we've got the cameras on the side here, and they all look good. Remember, sometimes we land on grass, and it's really easy to get stuff on those cameras, so you're going to want to double check that because you're counting on those cameras to keep the drone from running into stuff. Okay. So I'm going to pause here, and then we're going to fire up the drone in a minute. So let's now move on to the power up phase, which is the second phase in the test flight sequence. And you can see that I've got a monitor here to show you what's going on my screen. And we're going to go ahead and power up the drone while my phone is cooperating. There might be a few glitches in here to keep the screencast going, but we'll bear with that as we go. All right, to turn the drone on, the controller is already on. It hasn't been connected to the drone since I haven't turned it on yet. So I'm going to turn the drone on. And as you know, it's push once, let go, and then push again and hold it for a second. That's what turns it on. Same thing with the controller. And what we should see here in a minute is that this is going to turn to go fly. Up here, it gives you a version check, and that's how we know that it's ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit go fly. And what we should be seeing here in a minute is the screen. Okay, so you guys can see the screen that we're looking at here. And this screen here is the aircraft status screen. Hopefully you guys can totally see that. Actually, I'm gonna move the camera a little bit so it's a little bit more focused on the screen. Okay, maybe that'll be a little bit better. Okay, so you can see there that there's the aircraft status screen. So the very first thing we want to do in the power up stage is flip. We're going to use that screen heavily. Okay, maybe that's not the first thing. Let's take a look back at our checklist. Okay, so now we're in the power up phase. The first thing we're going to do is check the power sources. All right. We've already checked that the batteries are adequately charged. I believe there's a thing on here that talks about battery status. Yeah, so right here, aircraft battery says 87%. The temperature is 15.3 degrees Celsius, which should be fine. Okay, there's other places where we'll double check the power sources, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so we'll check the battery cell here in a minute. We're going to go through all the menus on this video so you can understand it better. Okay, the structure, we're going to take a look here at the position lights and the LED lights. Okay, so you see that one, this one here, and this one here are all flashing properly. So that means we're okay on those. There's no warnings on, I'm not seeing any warnings on this screen at all for things like when we're looking at things, let's see, the vision sensors seem normal. Radio control quality seems good. The let's see, gimbal status, remaining SD card capacity. Okay, so I'm not seeing any warnings on any of the things on this screen. So let's go down the rest of the checklist, and we'll flip through a couple other screens to double check. All right, so the SD card capacity, I saw that a minute ago. Let's double check that one. Yeah, that seems to be tons of capacity. All right, the internal, let's see, the gimbal status is okay, right there. Gimbal status is normal. All right, and there's a bunch of things you're gonna check on the camera settings, but we're gonna skip that for today. But remember, you do need to double check that stuff because, I mean, it's obviously important. All right, we're gonna check in a minute to see if there's any geo zones that come up. We've already checked the battery. We've already checked the phone, the tablet. The phone is adequately charged. We've checked that already. We're going to check that it connects properly to the controller. It does, because we're seeing it. The software and the gimbal, let's see, are compatible. We've checked that already. The antennas are positioned properly. We've got that already. Camera video appears on the displays. The controller audio is, we'll find that out in a minute. The flight mode and the control sensitivity and response are set properly. You're going to need to check that. That's a different setting. The joystick is in default mode 2. We'll double check that. All right. So I think the controller and the displays are okay. The connection to the aircraft, it already says that the signal strength is good. So that would be radio channel quality is good right here. All right, the let's see. Let's check the compass status and the inertial measurement unit. So let's see. I've got the IMU, which is here. The compass is good. The IMU is good. Let's see. Obstacle avoidance. Let's double check that. Let's see if we can find that one. Maximum ESC vision sensors say normal. So that's here. The vision sensors is the obstacle avoidance. We've already checked the GPS signal strength. Let's see what the maximum altitude and the maximum altitude is 120 and the maximum flight distance is disabled. So for this, we don't really need to worry about that, but it is important to double check that. This 120 might become a problem for us later, so that's something you're going to want to double check when you're flying. Let's see. The battery smart return to home is activated. We're going to want to double check that, but I'm not entirely sure where that is, so we'll come back to that. Okay. Well, again, some of this stuff you're going to have to learn, but you can see why it's important to check all this stuff, right? So let's just do a quick flip through so you can see what's on here. We have overall status, which is double checks mostly if we've got the latest firmware. We've got the flight mode. We've got the compass, that's normal. The IMU is normal. The maximum altitude is set. The maximum flight distance is disabled. The ESC status, I believe the ESC status is around the motors. So need to double check that, but that's normal. Vision sensors are normal. There's the remote controller mode. It's in mode 2, so that's good. Mode 2 is the one that you're used to, where this is forward, backward, side, side, and this is up, down, and turn. That's the mode that you want it to be in. The radio channel quality says is good. The remote control battery is 72%. The button customization, I mean, yeah, so this is, well, okay, you guys can play with that. The aircraft battery is at 84%, that's good. The aircraft battery temperature is at 17 degrees Celsius, that's good. Gimbal status is normal. The SD card has plenty of room, and the internal storage, which we're not going to worry about, has memory too. Okay, so having done that, we're going to close that, and we're going to take a look at the other screens, all right? So I just opened up the settings. So this one here is the MC settings. I'm not sure what MC is for. But so remote identification isn't something necessarily that we need to pay a lot of attention. Well, we will probably. I just don't know what that is yet. The home point settings, the nice thing about this is that we can set it either to where the controller is or where the aircraft is, and we can do that when we're flying it. The return to home at current altitude is on. Okay, we're gonna have to double check that. Enable intelligent flight modes is on, that's good. The return to home altitude right now is set at 30 meters, which is fine here, but that's something you're gonna wanna double check. We don't have it in beginner mode. This is where you set the maximum altitude and the distance limit, and then there's some advanced settings that, well, let's see what the advanced settings are. Okay, so the advanced settings are things that are for the way you fly it, like the sensitivity and such. I don't know anything about that, but let's say for now that they're advanced, and so we're not going to worry about it, but I do think it's worth looking into later. All right, let's go back to that menu. All right, this one here, the forward-backward obstacle avoidance is normal, and the enable forward and backward obstacle sensing is on, so that's good. All right, so let's double check the controller. This is where we do the calibration. If you need to calibrate the remote controller because the thing is moving weirdly, this is where you do that. The remote LCD screen, stick mode, button customization. So this isn't one you need to spend a whole lot of time in unless you need to recalibrate that controller. Yeah. All right, this is image transmission. We're not gonna worry about that today, but it's probably worth checking into. The aircraft battery. Now this one's an interesting, so if you need to double check your battery, here's the levels, and you want to see that these are balanced, right? If it's pulling from one cell more than the other, then you've got a problem. But it looks like it's fine. I don't know why smart return to home is turned off. Let's see, the aircraft will return to home when remaining in battery is only enough for return to home. I don't know why that's turned off, but we better make sure that that's turned back on. There's also where we set the low battery warning. It's at 25%, so we'll leave that. I'm not sure what flight time is. Show voltage on main screen. Time to discharge. So you can see the kind of things we're looking at there. All right. And then this is about the gimbal settings. This is pretty advanced stuff. I'll be honest, I don't understand all of this myself very well, but it's something that you're going to want to make sure you understand for the flights. Let's see. And then general settings. Oh, that's where you do the live streaming platform. That's pretty cool. So this is all stuff that you're going to want to play around with and get to know. Again, I don't understand all of this stuff. It's not critical for the flight right now, but you will want to understand it. If it does become critical for your flight, you're going to want to make sure you know it. Okay. All right, so we flipped that off. You're seeing the regular screen. I think that takes care of everything we need to worry about for the power up test. Now let's move on to the hover test. I'm going to take the drone over. We're going to put it on the pad, and we're going to... Okay. So you see the drone is on the pad now. To do the hover test, what we're going to do is we're going to take the drone up to a safe hover at about maybe 10-ish feet, and we're going to take it through its paces. All right? To launch the drone, you just push these two things down, like downward and in. So like this. And you notice when I do that, it starts spinning up. I did hear the audio. It sounded a little low, so I might have to find a way to turn that up. But it's now, the drone's powered up, so I'm going to go ahead and lift it up off the pad. And I'm going to bring it up to maybe a little over my head. And the reason I'm bringing it up over my head is because I don't want it to hit me, but at the same time I want to be able to, I don't want it so high that I can't see it. All right, so let's walk through the things we need to check on the hover test. All right, first we're going to listen to it and see if anything sounds weird. All right, for the purposes of this, I'm going to move it over a little closer to us. I've got my safety glasses on, but I don't want to hit myself either. So let me move it forward a little bit. Okay, so you guys can see the drone. Let's actually move it down Okay, you can see the drone if I spin it around. I'm not hearing anything weird. It seems to be doing what I want it to do, so that's good. All right, it maintains stable flight. Sometimes your drone is gonna do some weird stuff, like it's gonna drift. That's usually because the controller is a little messed up. That's where that controller calibration comes in. I'm leaving it here and it seems rock solid, so that's great. So let's move it forward a little bit so we get it out from around us. Okay. Now we're gonna see if it's responsive. Okay, so I'm gonna push forwards. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna let go and it stopped. Backwards, and I let go and it stopped. Sideways, I let go and it stops. Other way, let go and it stops. It's in GPS mode now. I'm gonna go up, I let go and it stops. Down, I let go and it stops. Turn, let go and it stops. Turn the other way, let go and it stops. Oh, it drifted a little bit. I think that's just a gust of wind. I think it's gonna be all right. All right, so that looks fine. Let's see, it's responding to the controls. The buttons and switches seem to be doing what I want them to do. All right, I'm gonna check the obstacle avoidance, particularly because I'm a little worried that I'm gonna fly it over towards that tree and we're gonna see what it tells me. Okay, so literally I'm pushing it forward and it won't go forward, which means the obstacle avoidance is stopping it. Let's see what it does sideways. Oh, well, apparently the obstacle avoidance sideways isn't doing what I wanted it to do, but maybe that's because I'm misunderstanding what that's supposed to do. Let's try it backwards. Yeah, okay, so it also isn't doing it backwards. So forward-backward obstacle sensing is fine. Let's see what happens when I go up. Oh, okay. Sorry, damn it. Always practice your drone, otherwise you forget how it's supposed to operate. Let's go backwards a little bit. All right, so it's gonna allow me to fly right into that tree, which I'm not really happy about. We're gonna have to have a better understanding about what forward and backward optical sensing does, because forward and backwards is clearly on. The other ones aren't doing what I thought they would. But let's say for now that that's the way it's supposed to be, because we're not really supposed to be flying things into trees anyway. That's why we try to keep them away. Okay. All right, let's see, button switches. Obstacle avoidance, we're okay with what it's doing right now. Now we're gonna try the return to home. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna move it off to the side a little bit. Let's move it forward some too. And I'm gonna activate the return to home. Now this is the one that I had a little bit of trouble with this before. Apparently there's an auto landing function. So if you have the auto landing, if it's close to their home point, which as you know is that thing down there, then if it's within, I think 30 meters of the home point, then it's gonna wanna just land on where it is, not return to home. Apparently that's a feature that's on purpose, but I'm gonna try it now. So I'm gonna activate return to home. Yeah, okay, I was afraid of that. I read some things in the forum that say that's what it's supposed to do. So let's try that again. But let's try it by moving it away. So I'm gonna take it up a little bit, and I'm gonna take it over there, and we're gonna put it over the street. We'll check nobody's around. Tricky thing about flying in the neighborhood is there's a chance that we might run into some neighbors here. So let's move it over. So I've got a clear sky above. I think I'm far enough away that return to home should be fine. So let's try it. Okay, so apparently all right, good. It's doing what I expected to do. It's going up to its return home altitude. Okay, so apparently that auto landing thing is a thing, and apparently that's a feature of the drone. And I'm not really happy about that, but I don't think there's anything we can do about it. So the key is, if you're flying close to you, you've got to make sure it's always going to be over something that it can land on. All right, so it's coming back down. And it's coming back down the way we expect it. So that's good. And it's still coming back down. La 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 la. Oh, right, and the home point, since we took off over there, the home point is now the sidewalk, so it's going to land on the sidewalk. But that's pretty much what we expected to do. So let's take it back off. We have one more check that we want to do in the hover test. But before we do, I'm going to bring it, I'm going to bring it back. And I'm going to update the home point to be over this. So let's go back to here. Let's see. That one? No, it's this one? Huh, where's the home point? Dang it. This is embarrassing. Let's see. No. Oh, we're in advanced settings, that's why. Okay. So we're going to set the home point. Oh, dang it. We're going to set the home point using this little button right here. We're going to push that button. It sets the current position as the home point. I'm going to click OK. Home point's been updated. So now I'm going to fly it over a little bit, and we're going to try to see what happens when I turn off the controller. Okay, so I'm literally going to turn the controller off. Okay, the controller's off, so in a minute, the drone should recognize that it doesn't have a control, and it should activate. And good, it looks like it's going to come back. Awesome. Wait, what are you doing? Come on. Okay, so one of the other protocols is, depending on how far away it is from the home point, it's either going to come straight to the home point, or it's going to go up to the return home altitude and then come back down. So apparently it's far enough away to go to the return home altitude, but now it's returning home just fine. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on, see if I can get the connection, and see if we can take this thing over again. Oh, but it didn't land on the home point, you booger. All right, so didn't land exactly on the home point. I must not have set it very well, but that's okay. All right, so the very last thing, apparently it did everything I wanted it to do in the hover test. So let's take it through the test flight. For the test flight, I'm gonna take it back off again. We're gonna take it through the flight area. So the important part about taking it through the flight area is we wanna make sure that not only does it do everything here, but it also does everything throughout the flight area. It's beeping, so apparently it sees me here, I'm guessing. All right, so we're gonna wanna check the gimbal settings and the camera settings. We'll leave that to you guys because you guys are the experts at this stuff. But I would suggest in your test flight to actually take some video, download it, and double check to make sure that video is coming out right, because as you know, as I found out in my wedding, you can't always count on that. In my son's wedding, I mean. All right, but we want to take it through the whole flight area. I'm going to say the flight area is, let's pretend that what we're doing here is that tree over there with the truck under it. That's going to be the subject. So I'm going to take it around there and over just to make sure that this keeps doing what I want it to do. And I'm going to double check the controller strength, or so you can see up here is the satellite, the GPS strength, and we're going to double check the controller strength, which I can't remember exactly where that is. That may be one of these two. But that's something we're going to want to know. All right, so let's take it forward. Okay, so now it's in my flight area, and I'm still seeing that we've got good GPS. I'm gonna put back on this screen here, and I'm gonna just double check all the things we've seen. So let's see. I've still got the flight, let's see, compass is normal, IMU is normal, ESC status, vision sensors are all normal, radio channel quality is good. So that's an important thing. And sometimes when you do these things, you're gonna find that there's lots of interference. That's one of the things we're checking for here. So we've got good radio channel quality. Battery's still good. Let's see, aircraft battery, temperature, gimbal status, remaining SD. So all of that stuff is good. Let's close that. And I'm still seeing good, all of this stuff still looks good. We're gonna have to double check to make sure we understand what all of that is, but for the purposes of today, I think we're in good shape for our test flight. Let's see, the number of satellites, compass strength is okay. We've got good on that. And the RTH is set at the right level. We've double checked that. So guys, having gone through that whole test flight sequence, hopefully you guys can see that we've done a pretty thorough check of this drone, and I think that we can say pretty positively that we're going to be safe and successful in this mission. Now, of course, you need to double check that stuff frequently throughout the day, because it can always change. But I think we're in good shape. I'm going to bring the drone back now. And actually what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do return to home. And we're going to make sure that the drone actually returns home. And while we're doing that, I'm going to say, so as you know, the purpose of this video was us walking through this sequence. It was a little rough, but as you guys can see, there's a number of things we need to check, and you need to be really familiar with this drone to make sure that all the things you're checking, that everything's good. And there are obviously some things that I didn't know on this drone, so I'm gonna have to get better at that. So are you. So what I'd like you guys to do is really double check to understand all this stuff, so that you can check this stuff and make sure. And then the next time, and then the next time, and the next time, we'll do these checks better so that we can be sure we're on track with how to do this stuff. This was just my very first example of how to do this. We're gonna wanna improve on it. But bam, the drone landed exactly where we want it to, so I think we're in good shape. All right, guys, so good luck when you guys do this.